Welcome to Built for This, the podcast where real estate meets real life skills. Hosted by Andrea Lane and Alyssa Bicar, each episode features investors turning their unique edge into long-term rental success.
Hello and welcome to the Built for This podcast. I am your co-host, the Consultress, here with the amazing partner that I have in crime, Andrea Lane. We have real conversations with real estate investors who are out there building their real estate investment businesses and bringing all of their expertise from their careers and their personal life to the table to make it a success. Andrea, who do we have for him today?
I'm really excited to introduce you to Patty Aubery. Patty has been in the real estate industry for almost 40 years, done amazing things. She actually, aside from owning rentals in Tennessee, she owns property that she uses to rent out to have events, which I think is a stunning way of doing business. So Patty, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alyssa and she'll walk you through it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hello.
Hey, so great to have you here. So give us a little bit of the inside track. Like, why were you attracted to real estate investing?
Well, I think it's really where you're going to make the bulk of your money. You know, we all have our day jobs, but when I look at everything I've done in the last 40 years, and I look at the investments I've made in real estate, they've far exceeded the stuff that I've done on a daily basis for the most part. I mean, I've had some pretty big wins, so I won't say everything. But typically, I see my money double much more quickly in real estate than I do anywhere else. So that's why I started. I started off with one condo, then two, then a house, and then a big retreat center, and then a commercial building, and then another commercial building, and just kind of on and on and on. And if I look back and look at what I paid for those and what they've generated in rent, but also what they've appreciated at, I don't think I could have ever made that in the market, unless, of course, I bought Bitcoin.
Right. When it first came out.
Yeah. We think, right? Who knows?
So what is it that you love most about it?
I think that mostly it's passive. You know that you have this amount of capital that's working for you. Somebody else is paying your mortgages. Somebody else is paying the overhead for the most part. And it's growing while you're sleeping. So for me, I'm always looking at what are those multiple streams of income. And that's one that I don't typically have to worry about. Every now and then we all have our issues, but for the most part, it's a great way to grow my overall portfolio for my family.
Absolutely. And as you're growing this portfolio for your family, getting some passive wealth and income along the way. Tell us a little bit about your professional and personal background and kind of how those skill sets lent themselves to you building your real estate investment business.
Well, I've been in the world of publishing really for the last 40 years almost, and self-help, but I also run a lot of workshops and seminars. And so as I was I built Chicken Soup for the Soul, the book brand. So I've probably spent, way more than the average, actually probably years in hotels for the most part. And so my big joke in my 30s was we should just buy a hotel. And it's not a joke now. It's kind of sad that I didn't, right? Because when you look at how much money I was spending at that, it was ridiculous, really. So when I started to look at doing author retreats or different events, I thought, well, I could do them in a hotel, or I could do them in a really wonderful home where it's much more cozy and it's fun to do. But it didn't really start that way. It started as an accident when it came to that. So I was always investing. I was buying small things when I was young, just because it's a good write-off and I wanted to have a couple rentals. And then one crazy day, my husband and I had this idea that we should buy some land in Maui. And so we bought a couple different parcels on the ocean and we went on to build out a couple of homes. One was 12.5 million, one was 20. And of course, right when it was sale time, the market just tanked. And so luckily I got really creative on a marketing side on how to sell that first property, because the first one was a spec. The second one we were considering, do we keep it? We're not really sure. But so what happened was we sold the first one, and then the second one, because the market had slowed so much, I thought, what am I going to do with this other than go bankrupt, to be totally honest? And so, unlike most of your audience and probably most of the people that work with you and knowing what you do and how you coach people on investing, and I know because I've worked with you and I think you're amazing. I went to a psychic, and the psychic said, you need to use this house to create it needs to be a learning center, and you need to use your voice, and it's actually here to grow you personally and professionally at the same time. I was like, are you kidding me? I have these properties and I've got kids and I've got a day job and a publisher and authors all over the country. No way. But I thought, well, you know what? If the psychic says it, I might as well entertain it. So I held a very high end retreat in Hawaii about, I want to say it was probably like 15 years ago was my first one. And I was able to generate several $100,000 from that retreat, which then gave me the overhead I covered my overhead for months. And so I thought, well, this is kind of interesting. And it was completely out of the box, but I thought, well, maybe I'll do another one. And so that became a model for me to create luxury retreats in beautiful places. And that was sort of my side hustle, I guess you would say, as the market came back up for that particular property. And then I've also done that with other properties where I find something that's big and kind of beautiful, but maybe not perfect for me as something that I want to live in full time. But I've been able to scoop up a couple things inexpensively and refurb them and use them for really beautiful retreat centers, which I have now in Nashville, Tennessee, that I use. In fact, I just got back from there, and it's awesome. So other than instead of paying somebody else for a space, I can pay myself for the space, and I don't have the same overhead. And people feel like it's a cozier, more inviting environment, really.
Absolutely. I have to say I was lucky enough to be at one of these locations, and also get to see some of the underbelly that goes into some of these endeavors. So I know from experience that, you're creative and sharp as a tack. So what do you feel like your unfair advantage is, knowing what you know, having the experiences you've had, and applied that to your real estate investments?
I think the only advantage I might have over a lot of people is that anything's possible if you have the right vision and you have the right people around you to support you to attain that vision. And a lot of people just think, oh, that would, I can't really do that, or I won't qualify, or how am I going to afford that? Where I'm like, okay, how is this property going to stretch me to become the new version of me that I need to become anyway? And it's going to actually, they're like my accountability projects, to be honest. So I'm not smarter. I mean, I don't have that much liquid cash laying around, but I just look at it from a creative standpoint, because at the end of the day, the more properties I have, if I had thought of this, like if I had really been serious about this in my 30s, I could have been buying up things left and right and center. And so often we start to do well and we might buy a dream house or we might buy something, but we think, oh, I'm always going to be doing this good. But the reality is, if you can just live a certain way long enough and you can continue to invest in other properties, you get to have a much better life at 50 than you do if you're not planning ahead. So that's kind of my motto there. I don't even know if I answered.
Yeah. No, I heard my unfair advantage is a limitless mindset and the ability to get creative with the people around me. So holding a big vision and bringing together the community and the right people and putting the right partners in place, it's everything. Andrea, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it, because that's what I started. I started small and just never stopped. And I wish, just like you, I bought a whole lot more. And the only ones I regret are the ones I sold. So,
Yes. Good point. Good point. And if you're a mother, you
oh,
definitely want to have a couple properties close by, especially if you have boys, because boys typically get married off and then they end up with the girls' parents more than you. So I have bribery properties where, I have boys. So if I want them to stay close, I knew I had to have properties nearby that they could probably never afford by the time they got to a certain age. So yeah, it's like, intentionally I get a little crazy, but I mean, it's really all possible if you just don't tell yourself, oh, that's not for me. It's impossible. I'll never be able to do that. That's just simply not true. It's just not true.
I love the mindset because so many people need to learn it. That's what the whole growth is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we only thought that way every time we went out to buy new outfits, like, am I going to be able to pay for this?
Yeah. Right on. So we want to know, Andrea and I have some deeper dive type of questions like around the experiences here.
Mhm.
Yeah, so what's your biggest challenge? I know you have all these properties running and they're doing well and but you know, nobody walks through real estate with no challenges. What's been your biggest challenge?
I, I mean, honestly, me, because if I stay grounded, I mean, the challenge is okay, the roof is leaking, or there's a flood in my crawl space, or my elevator is stuck. Like, I can be like, oh, it's so overwhelming. But the reality is, if you have the right people in place that you can call and they can respond quickly, and you have it all planned, really, like if you're going to buy something, who's going to help you? Who's your handyman? Who's your just like start to, I always say fake it till you make it, like act as if you already have it and imagine if you did, who would be in that stable for you as resources when something goes wrong. So my biggest thing has been like getting too busy in some situations and getting overwhelmed. I have a property in Tennessee that's really large and it can be a little overwhelming, but it's not when you hire the right people to help you get it done. And it gets done more quickly. And you always look at, all right, so I have this cash flow coming in. I can afford to do it. My thing is always like, well, would it be cheaper if I did it? And the answer is almost always no, from a psychological standpoint, a time standpoint, and then redoing it more than once. So find the right experts, know who you have, and then it becomes not so hard. There are times where things aren't rented, or I know there's going to be a slump, but then I just have to get creative about, like, for example, in Nashville, if Taylor Swift's coming to town, I can rent out one of my properties for a lot of money a day, more than I would normally get in a month. But it's like looking at it from, a forward thinking mindset. Who's coming to town? What's happening? When are like the best Western hotel room is going to be $2,500? What if I had a place for a whole family? What if I charged 25 or 30,000 for a few days, which I could do easily. And so it's like maybe the biggest thing is like having the inconvenience of thinking that way and then knowing it's got to be ready. But it's a business, just like anything else. So you kind of have to seize the moment when the moment's happening.
100%. I love it. That's so true. Having the right tribe around you, right? I
Mhm.
talk about it all the time, is so key in making sure your business runs and that you have a business. So
Yeah. I mean, I have an example of a friend, and they have a bunch of properties in Nashville, and they were going to sell this property, and it's beautiful, and they were getting no leads. No, it's very expensive. It's like, okay, would you just be open to it being done differently? What if it wasn't going to come through your real estate agent? What if we could send out like a flyer to all the HR departments in Nashville? There's a ton of companies moving there. What if it's just going to come a different way? And they're like, I don't know. And then literally a week later, the guy called me. He's like, okay, are you sitting down? I'm like, yeah. He's like, somebody wants to rent the house. But I said no. I'm like, okay. He's like, then they called back and then they offered more. And I said no. And then they called back again. They offered like a stupid number and I had to say yes. And it's a studio and they're going to rent it for a new television show. But it's like once you open up your mind to what if it's going to look differently, I feel like it's like law of attraction. Things start to come in. And so it really is, like, if you want to do this, like have fun doing it and know that every obstacle is actually an opportunity. Doesn't look that way or feel that way, but if you can just stay in that space, I feel like the vibration's different and then things come to you. Yeah.
100, that's amazing. What what are your plans? I mean, it sounds like you've done so much and you're not stopping. So, what are your plans for the next 6 to 12 months? What do you think you're going to be doing?
Well, I have my daughter-in-law is pregnant and they live in South Carolina and I have a commercial building there. And they actually are already starting to buy second homes and third home, like rentals. Every time they buy a new house, they use the last one for a rental, which is great. But I'm looking at possibly getting something there that I might either VRBO or just kind of time share it with some friends, even possibly even her parents. So we have a place to stay when we're there. So it's like, all right, what else do we need? And because the properties are all paid for, it's like we could leverage different things. And with the market being where it's at and with rates where they are, it's still a great market for the right people, because people are willing to make deals. So that's probably where I'm going to go. And who knows? Maybe that's just one of many. I don't know yet. You got any good deals for me, Andrea?
I love going where your kids are, because every time I say, people ask me if I'm moving, and I'm like, only if my kids move. Like, I
I
have a
know.
lot of fun in my partners, and my partners have twin girls that are 2. I'm never leaving them. So it's not, am I moving? No. Am I going someplace else for a while? Maybe, but I'll be back.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a nice way to do it when you have a spouse that doesn't like, I just get up and go anywhere. I mean, I've always traveled my whole life for my business. So for me, it's like second nature. I always say if my suitcase starts to rattle if I'm home too long. So I need places to go. And at least if they're mine, it's a lot more convenient because you only need to carry on. Um, but for my husband, he's really more of a homebody. So just having a place there that's an investment property that we can go visit instead of staying in hotels because they're going to have a baby. And like, why bother when we know the next 3 or 4 years are going to be us being there a lot?
Right, great, great.
That is so cool. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
So I'd like to thank you so much for being on this podcast today and sharing, because you've got so much to offer, and you're doing so many things that I'm going to push my partners now to do a little more. So they're not going to be happy we had this interview, but I'm excited about it. And so if people want to connect with you, how would they do that?
Oh, they can find me on LinkedIn at just my name, Patty Aubery, and it's Aubery. People spell it wrong. So it's PATTYAUBERY. I'm there.
Perfect. Thanks again. So much appreciated this. Great.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It was
Yeah.
fun.
So, listen, we have fun on this podcast. We learn things that we did not know about people we have known forever, and we're just getting started. So, if you're listening to this broadcast, stay tuned, stay right here, don't go away. We have another amazing episode queued up right for you right after this, and we will see you next time.
This wraps another episode of Built for This. If you're a real estate investor with a unique edge, apply to join us at builtforthisshow.com/guest.